Hey guys, welcome to the another video where we will be looking at the next 5 questions and as I have said earlier that I'll be putting all these answers by each video, that is 5 answer each. And yeah, let's get started. Before starting, if you appreciate what I do, please like the video, share the video and subscribe to the channel. Okay, what the first question today is, what is DRBD? If you are asked that what is DRBD, DRBD is nothing but a distributed replicated block device. Is a Linux based software component that facilitates the replacement of shared storage. So it is nothing but a replacement of shared storage system, which is done by network mirroring. I'll try to make it simple. What it is, DRBD, what it is? It's a Linux based software, and what it does, it facilitates the replacement of shared storage system. And how it is done? By networked mirroring. DRBD makes it possible to maintain consistency of data among multiple systems in a network. DRBD also ensures high availability for Linux applications. High availability, I have already explained in my earlier videos, is nothing but something which is available all the time. Because this is hardware, so it might happen that some of your resource can break down, and if those resources are down, there are some other things which can provide you the details or information what is required all the time. The current version of DRBD can be used with all common flavors of Linux for synchronous replication of stored data between a passive system and an active system. Data can be read from and written to both systems simultaneously. DRBD also supports a resource level fencing. Now this resource level fencing is something which comes into cluster, and we will be looking into these topics in the later videos. DRBD works in conjunction with the cluster management. So as I said, DRBD works with cluster management program that is called as Heartbeat and has been bundled into some distributions of Linux. The software has been released under the GNU GPL. These are some additional information. If you give this information in front of the interviewer, this will give a very good impression on the interviewer. GNU public license and can be freely distributed and modified within the limitation of the license agreement. So these are the some of the features about what is DRBD. So if in case if you are asked such type of question, you can easily explain it. You can say the points that are mentioned over here. So quickly we'll come to the next question, that is the most important question, and you will be asked this question in each and every interview, that is for sure, because port numbers, knowing the port numbers is the most important thing. Because if you know the services and the port numbers, then it becomes very easy to configure the services. So below are the different categories of ports. So first you have to understand there are some categories in which the ports works. From 0 to 1023, these are the well known ports, and also they are referred as system ports. From 1024 to 49151, these are the registered ports and also known as user ports. From 49152 to 65535, here we have to know that there are ports from 0 to 65535 only. Okay, so these ports are the dynamic ports, also referred to as the private ports. Now let's see, there are some services and what are the default ports for their services. Because interview can ask you randomly, tell me the port number for FTP, for SSH, for SMTP, for DNS, for HTTPD. So here are, I have mentioned some of the ports. For FTP, 21 port is used. For SSH 22, for SMTP simple mail transfer protocol 25, for DNS 53 is used, for HTTPD 80 is used. These are some mail servers POP3 IMAP for which 110143, and for HTTP for a secure socket layer HTTPS the port number is 443. Okay, guys, do remember knowing the ports is very important. SFTP port also uses the port 22. As SFTP runs as a subsystem of SSH, it runs on whatever ports the SSH daemon is listening on, that it's administrator configurable. SFTP usually uses port 22 but can be configured to run on nearly any port. So these are some things that you need to note. Port 22 is generally used for connection via SSH. 22 is nothing but used for taking your server's session through SSH, that is secure shell. As we all know, by default rsync uses the default SSH port 22 to sync files over local remote host and vice versa. But the rsync daemon port is 873. The DHCP server transmit responses to the DHCP clients at a port number 1 greater than the UDP port specified. For example, if default port 67 is used, the server listens on port 67 for request and responds to client on port 68. So these are some of the ports that are used commonly. I have mentioned the port numbers and the services. You should before going to the interview, you should see the list of the ports and their port numbers, so that if any of the port the interviewer asks you randomly, you can easily give the answer. Coming to the next question, that is also a very important question, that is what is cluster and its services. This topic cannot be completed in just 2 slides. This topic needs an entire video alone. So as I have said earlier, I have tried to collect most of the information into this video. But when a interviewer asks you randomly what is cluster, and if you want to answer it in for within 5 to 10 minutes, these information is more than enough. So a Linux cluster is a connected array of Linux computers. Array of computers means that there will be multiple computers or nodes that will work together and can be viewed as managed as a single system. It means for example, there will be 10 systems that will be connected together and it can be viewed as a single system and can be operated as a single system. But behind there are 10 systems working together. That is known as cluster. A server cluster is a group of linked servers that work together to improve system performance, load balancing and service availability. Again, this word comes, load balancing is nothing but the traffic that comes on the system just to manage that traffic. Service availability, the service that an application is providing should be available for 24/7. That is the reason people mostly use cluster, so that the performance also increase and the service is also available for 24/7. When operating a cluster nodes, the VMs running on a host are members of the cluster and run resources. Special fencing agents are available, so these cluster nodes can fence each other, whether running on a RHEL based system, RHEL enterprise virtualization or other VM hypervisor host. There are two types of cluster: high availability cluster and storage cluster. High availability, the goal of a high availability cluster is also known as HA cluster or failover cluster. Failover cluster, HA cluster or high availability cluster is nothing but, for example, you have 2 systems or 4 systems, out of which one system goes down. but there is another system that will keep the service available for the consumers or the users. So this is what high availability means. Storage cluster. In a storage cluster, all members provide a single cluster file that can be accessed by different server system, and this provided file system can be used to read and write data simultaneously. Resource group and resources. In clustering terminology, the basic unit of work is called a resource. A single IP, file system or database would all be considered as resources. Typically, the relationship between these resources are defined to create user facing services. Again, we have this failover. Failover is like high availability cluster which tries to keep services available by migrating them to another node, that is migrating them to another server. When the cluster notices that the node that was originally running the services is not responding, that is called failover. Fencing. Here comes the terminology fencing. These are some of the most important terminologies of a cluster which you should know, and when you answers the question of cluster with all this terminology, this also gives a very good impression on the interviewer. Fencing is the most important part. This can be asked randomly also, what is fencing in cluster? So it is a mechanism that ensures a malfunctioning cluster node. Malfunctioning cluster node is nothing but a cluster which is a node which is not working properly, cannot cause corruption, so that its resources can be safely recovered elsewhere in the cluster. It means that if a node that is not working properly should also not spoil the work or the services of the another server that is there in the cluster. That is the reason fencing is there, and which the data which was present in that particular node can be recovered from another cluster as well. Shared storage. Shared storage provides the same application data to multiple nodes or instances or servers. All these are same in the cluster. Quorum. Quorum describes a voting system that is required to maintain cluster's integrity, and every cluster member has an assigned number of votes. By default that assigned number of vote is 1. Okay, so I guess these information about a cluster would be more than enough, but as I've said you earlier that this topic cannot be completed within 2 slides, but when it comes to an interview where you will be speaking for 5 to 10 minutes, this is more than enough. Coming to the next question, what is a kernel compilation? If you are asked this question, compiling is nothing but usually means downloading the source code and modifying the source code. It is as simple as that. Download the source code and modify it. Configuring the kernel features, modules, drivers as per our requirement, that is called kernel compilation. And what is compilation? It is the process of changing a higher level program that we understand to a lower level instructions that a machine can understand. Kernel is essentially a bunch of programs that interact directly with hardware, and kernel is also known as the heart of Linux because it is a program or a feature that interacts directly with the hardware. And our Linux operating system uses kernel to communicate with the hardware resources. Kernel compilation means converting C code of the kernel to a low level assembly instruction so that one can use this code and run onto a computer. There are programmers who like to change the way kernel or operating systems run on their computer. So what they do is they download the C code of the kernel, make the changes like editing, adding, removing certain code, and compile this modified kernel to change it into assembly level instruction. And once it is done, all these machines instruction are packed into a file called VM Linux, which you can then tell the computer to use instead of the default kernel. Coming to the next question, that is, what is shebang value? This is also a very important question when there is a requirement in a company regarding the scripts. This is the question that can be asked, that what is the shebang value? It is nothing but the character sequence consisting of the characters, number, sign and exclamation mark at the beginning of the script. It is also called as shebang, hashbang, pound bang and hash pling. This syntax used in script to indicate mostly an interpreter for execution under Unix Linux operating system. Most Linux shell, Perl, Python script starts with the following line. It is called a shebang or bang line. It is nothing but the absolute path to the bash interpreter, and it consists of a number sign and an exclamation point character followed by the full path of the interpreter. Interpreter is can be anything, that is, we are in Linux using bash, which is stored in bin directory. All script under Linux execute using the interpreter specified on the first line. Almost all bash scripts often begin with hash exclamation bin bash, assuming that bash has been installed in slash bin directory. This ensures that bash will be used to interpret the script even if it is executed another shell. And this is some additional information that the shebang was introduced by Dennis Ritchie, which brings us to the end of our 5 questions. If you appreciate what I do, please like the video, share the video and subscribe to the channel. Okay guys, also don't forget to hit the bell icon to get the notification of new videos. I'll be posting such videos more often now. That's all for now. Thank you all. Bye bye.